I don't even know where to start because honestly, even me, I am still trying to understand how my life entered this kind of mess. At that time, I was in my second year at uni. Things were not easy at all. My parents, let's just say they had their own problems, and asking them for money always ended in insults. I had a boyfriend. He was a good guy, caring, sweet, but he was also a student like me. We were both managing. Sometimes we would even share one plate of food and pretend it was romantic. But deep down, I knew love alone wouldn't pay my hostel rent, my school fees, or even my hair. Then one afternoon, I met him. I was at this small restaurant near campus with my friend. She saw him first. A tall man, well-dressed, smelling like money. He came over, said hello, and asked if he could join us. I could tell from the watch on his wrist alone that this man's monthly salary could pay my whole school year. We started talking, and within 10 minutes, he asked for my number. The first thing I noticed about him was how direct he was. He didn't play around. The second thing was the wedding ring on his finger. I am not going to sit here and pretend I didn't see it. I saw it the first day. And yes, I still gave him my number. Judge me if you want. But back then, all I was thinking was, if this man wants to spend his money on me, why should I suffer? The truth, I told myself I wasn't going to fall for him. I was just going to use him till I didn't need him anymore. My plan was simple. Collect what I can, get comfortable, then cut him off. I didn't even see him as a boyfriend. He was a means to an end, survival. And honestly, in the beginning, it felt like the smartest decision I had ever made. He started giving me money for little things, 500 cedis here, 1,000 cedis there. Then one day, he paid my hostel rent without me even asking. It was like God had answered my prayers, except I didn't know this blessing was going to nearly destroy me. Welcome back to my channel, and I hope you are doing great today. If you are new here, I'm Vera, but you can call me V, and I share real stories that will shock you, break your heart, and sometimes make you laugh. And if it's something you love, please subscribe and like this video, and don't forget to turn on the notifications so that when I post, you'll be notified immediately. Today's shout out goes to Hey1330, Eva for real, and now 1991. They were the first people to comment on my last video. Thank you so much for the support, babes. I love you. And now without any further delay, let's continue. Because from the moment I let him into my life, I had unknowingly opened a door, and I didn't realize what was waiting on the other side. When I say life changed overnight, I mean it. Before him, I was just calculating every coin. After him, I didn't even know the price of anything in the market again. He didn't give me money. He upgraded my whole life. Paid my rent in full, no questions. Paid my school fees before the deadline. Even sent me extra for upkeep every month. I started wearing clothes I only used to admire on Instagram boutiques. My hair was always fresh. I started eating in restaurants I used to pass by thinking one day. And the crazy part, my boyfriend didn't suspect a thing. Or maybe he did and just never asked. I would tell him I got some small jobs, or my auntie sent me money. He would smile and thank God for me. Meanwhile, I knew exactly where it was coming from, and I wasn't about to complain. For the first time in a long time, I felt untouchable, like nothing could shake me. The money was flowing, my grades were good, my man was happy, and the married man, he was spoiling me like I was the only girl in the world. Until one afternoon after class, I was packing my bags when a woman walked up to me. She was maybe in her early 30s, light-skinned, well-dressed, and she had this calm smile that made you feel like you had seen her somewhere before. She said, "Hi, I know you," like we were old friends. I laughed politely and told her I didn't think we had met, but she just smiled again and said, "Oh, we have more in common than you think." Then she asked if I had a few minutes to talk. Something in her voice made me pause. Not threatening, not rude, but like she knew something I didn't. That was the beginning of everything. So after class that day, I decided why not? She didn't look dangerous, and honestly, she had this way of talking that made you feel at ease. We walked to a small restaurant near campus, and before I could even open my bag, she was already ordering for both of us. She told me her name. Let's call her Sister Ama. She said she lived not far from campus and came around sometimes for business. I asked her what she did, but she brushed it off and said, you know women, we hustle in different ways. We ate and talked, and she had this big sister vibe. She wasn't judgmental at all. In fact, she kept saying things like, you are young, enjoy yourself, just be careful with men. She even gave me some advice about how to know when a man is wasting your time versus when he is serious. I found myself laughing with her, forgetting that I had only met her like 30 minutes ago. She asked about my studies, my family, even my relationship. She listened without interrupting, nodding like she understood every struggle. Before we left, she paid the bill without blinking. Then she insisted on dropping me at my hostel in her car, a sleek black car that smelled like expensive perfume. By the time I got out, I was thinking, wow, she's nice. I didn't suspect a thing. In fact, I remember calling my friend later that night and saying, I met the nicest woman today. I think she's going to be like a big sister to me. I had no idea I was walking straight into a trap. It started like an ordinary afternoon. I had just come back from class when my phone buzzed. It was Sister Amma. By this point, we had been talking almost every day. Quick chats, funny voice notes, random how are you calls. She had this way of making you feel important, like you mattered to her. She said, sweetheart, what are you doing tonight? I told her I didn't have plans. She replied, perfect. Come to my house for dinner. I have been meaning to cook for you. My husband will be home too, so you can meet him. I hesitated for a second because meeting someone's husband, it felt a bit personal. But she brushed it off with, oh please, you are my little sister now. You have to meet my family. So later that evening, I dressed nicely but casual. Jeans, a simple top. Took a taxi to her address. She lived in a gated compound in a quiet upscale area. The gateman opened the door without asking who I was. Like he already knew I was coming. He gave me a strange look though. Not unfriendly but assessing. Like he was trying to read me. I brushed it off. When I stepped into her house, I was impressed. Tasteful furniture, spotless floors, soft music playing in the background. She welcomed me with a big hug, took my bag, and immediately offered me juice. In the kitchen, I could smell something delicious, jollof rice, grilled chicken, fried plantain. We sat in the living room, chatting while she put the finishing touches on dinner. She asked about school, about my health, even about my boyfriend. Then she said, oh, my husband should be home soon. You will like him. He is such a gentleman. I smiled politely, not thinking much of it, until the front door opened. I heard footsteps, then a familiar voice saying, honey, I'm home. My heart almost stopped. He walked into the living room, and it was him, my man. The same man who had been paying my rent, giving me money, and telling me he was working late on certain nights. For a moment, the world went silent. My hands went cold. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. My mind was racing. This is it. She knows. This is the day I get exposed and disgraced. But then, she smiled. Not just smiled. She got up, kissed him on the cheek and said, darling, this is the friend I have been telling you about. Then she turned to me and said, yes, I know. I know everything. And I forgive you. I didn't even speak. I just stared at her, waiting for the explosion, the shouting, the insults. Instead, she looked me dead in the eye and said, if you make him happy, that is enough for me. I just want him to be happy. I didn't know whether to run, cry, or thank her. My brain couldn't process it. And the man, he just stood there, smiling awkwardly, like this was some kind of family meeting we had all agreed to have. Dinner went on like nothing had happened. She served us both, laughed at our jokes, and acted like we were three old friends catching up. But the whole time, I kept thinking, this is not normal. Something is off here. I just didn't know how off it really was. If you had told me a year before that, I would be sitting in another woman's living room, eating her food, while she smiled at me, knowing I was sleeping with her husband, I would have called you mad. But there I was. The whole thing felt awkward at first. My body stiff every time she looked at me. my heart pounding when he spoke to me in front of her. But I can't lie, the comfort of it all started to make me relax. After that night, she kept calling me over. Sometimes it was for dinner, sometimes just to hang out. And she didn't treat me like an enemy. She treated me better than some of my own friends. She would give me little gifts, a perfume she didn't like anymore, a bag she never used, even clothes she said didn't fit her anymore. And this wearing cheap things. One Saturday, she called and said, "Why don't you come and spend the weekend? I'm making seafood okro and I want us to eat together." I told myself it was harmless. That evening, after we ate, it started raining heavily. I didn't feel like going back to my hostel in that weather. Before I could even say anything, she said, "Sleep here. There is a spare room." I thought she would set me up in a guest room far away from him. But later that night, he came to my room like it was the most normal thing in the world, and we slept together. The strangest part, she knew. She didn't knock, didn't call for him. The next morning, she was in the kitchen making breakfast for both of us like nothing happened. She even asked me if I slept well. That was the moment I realized this situation was not just unusual. It was crossing into something I couldn't explain. But I didn't want to lose the benefits. Rent paid, fees covered, extra money in my account every month. My mind told me to leave, but my pocket told me to stay. And so I stayed. Little did I know this was exactly what they wanted. After that weekend, going to their house started to feel almost normal. Almost. We had fallen into this strange routine. She will call me over. We will chat, eat, laugh. Sometimes even watch TV together. And then later, I would end up with him. She never complained. She never even hinted at being upset. If anything, she acted like she enjoyed having me around. But there was one person in that house who clearly didn't share her feelings. The gates man. From the first day I stepped into that compound, he had looked at me a certain way, not rude, but it is hard to explain, almost like he was measuring me. Sometimes when I caught his eye, it wasn't anger I saw, it was pity. At first, I told myself maybe he just didn't like visitors, or maybe he thought I was too young to be in that neighborhood. But the look never changed. Every time I arrived, every time I left, those eyes followed me. One afternoon, I was leaving after spending the night. The sun was hot. The compound was quiet. I said my usual polite good afternoon as I passed him. He didn't reply right away. Instead, as I walked past, he muttered, "Be careful." I stopped mid-step. I turned back. "Sorry, did you say something?" He looked around quickly, like he was checking if anyone was listening. Then he shook his head and said, "Nothing, madam. Safe journey." I laughed it off nervously, telling myself it was probably just judgment. Maybe he thought I was some spoiled small girl chasing a married man for money. People love to mind other people's business, right? But that night, as I lay in my bed at the hostel, his voice kept replaying in my mind. Be careful. Be careful of what? I didn't know it then, but that was the first real warning I ever got, and I ignored it. A few weeks after that strange "be careful" from the gate man, I started noticing little changes in myself. It began with tiredness, not the usual student tiredness from running between lectures and assignments. No, this one was different. I would wake up already feeling like I hadn't slept at all. Even climbing the stairs to my hostel room started to feel like a marathon. Then came the headaches. Some days, it felt like someone was pressing a heavy stone right at the back of my skull. I would take painkillers, drink water, even skip classes, but the pain would just sit there, waiting for me. And there was this one thing that still made my skin crawl when I think about it. One morning, I woke up at their house after spending the night, and there was a thin, angry-looking scratch running down my left leg, from my thigh to my shin. I had no memory of hurting myself, no broken nails, no torn clothing, nothing. When I showed it to her, Sister Amma, she gulped dramatically and said, "This is stress. Your body is breaking down because you don't rest. You need to take better care of yourself." She started telling me to rest more, stop overworking yourself with school. And every time I was at their place, she would insist on cooking for me. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, she was always a good cook. But sometimes the food tasted different, just slightly bitter. Not spoiled, not bad, just like there was something extra in it. When I teased her about it one day, she laughed and said it was just herbs to boost your health. But because she said it so casually, I told myself I was just stressed from school. That's the headache, the tiredness, the weird scratch. It was all from overthinking and not eating raw. But deep down, somewhere in my guts, a little voice had started whispering that maybe something wasn't right. I just didn't want to listen yet. One Saturday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Sister Amma. Her voice sounded extra sweet that day. The way someone talks when they are trying to convince you of something. She said, "My dear, you don't sound well these days. You have lost weight. Your eyes look tired. This school stress will kill you one day." I laughed it off, saying I was fine. But she didn't let it go. No, I won't take that. You need a proper break. Come and stay with me for 1 week. Let me take care of you like a proper sister. At first, I hesitated. A whole week. But then she added, "Please, I mean it. I can't stand seeing you like this. You are like the little sister I never had." Something about the way she said little sister made me feel safe. Laughed even. I had been feeling so run down, and honestly, the thought of good food, a comfortable bed, and no hostile noise was tempting. But then she said something that made me pause. "Just don't tell anyone you are here. People won't understand. They will laugh at me. Imagine if people hear I am friends with my husband's side chick. They will insult me until I die." She laughed after saying it, like it was a joke. But there was an edge to her tone. I agreed, telling myself it was just her pride talking. When I arrived at a place with my small bag, the gateman opened the gate. But this time, his face changed completely. His eyes widened for a split second, and before I could greet him, he leaned slightly toward me and said under his breath, "Don't stay here." Before I could even respond, she appeared at the door smiling, calling out, "My baby sister is here," and pulling me inside. She showed me to a bedroom, not the guest room I stayed in before, but one closer to hers. Fresh sheets, soft pillows, a big window with curtains drawn. She told me to unpack and forget about the outside world. That evening, she brought me a steaming plate of food and sat with me while I ate, watching me like she was making sure I finished every bite. She kept saying, "Here, you don't need to do anything, just rest. I will handle everything." At the time, I thought I was lucky to have found someone so caring. I didn't realize I was walking deeper into a trap I wouldn't know how to escape from. Later that night, I lay on the bed, expecting to finally sleep well. But instead, I had the strangest, most vivid dreams. In the dream, I was standing in the dark corridor. There were shadows moving along the walls, but I couldn't see where they were coming from. Then I heard voices, soft at first, like a hum, then clearer, my name, over and over again. I tried to move, but my legs felt heavy, and then I woke up. Except when I opened my eyes for a split second, I thought I saw someone standing in the corner of the room, a shape, tall, still, watching. When I blinked, it was gone. I told myself it was just the dream playing tricks on me, but as I turned over to try and sleep again, I could still hear the faint echo of my name in my head. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. My head was heavy, my mouth was dry, my whole body ached like I had been running all night instead of lying in bed. I reached for my phone on the side table, but it wasn't there. I checked under the pillow, on the floor, in my bag, nothing. When she came in with a bright "Good morning, my sister," I asked her if she had seen it. She smiled, a little too sweetly. "Oh yes, I took it. You need to rest without distractions. All these calls and messages will not allow your spirit to settle." I laughed nervously and said I needed it back, but she waved me off. "Don't worry, it is safe. Just 1 week without it, you'll thank me later." Something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. But I was so drained, so weak, that I didn't have the energy to argue. She placed a tray on the bed, breakfast. But before I could touch the food, she held up a glass of a thick green drink. Herbal medicine, she said, smiling. It will cleanse your body. The smell alone made my nose wrinkle. She stood there watching me until I drank every last drop. At first, I told myself maybe she genuinely wanted to help. Maybe she was just overprotective. But the way she kept hovering around me, the way she watched me drink that concoction every morning, the way she avoided giving me my phone back, it didn't feel like care anymore. It felt like control. And I was too tired to fight it. It was maybe the third night in her house when it happened. I remember waking up suddenly, not because of a noise, but because of a feeling. You know, when you sense you are not alone. My eyes opened, and in the deep glow of the corridor lights leaking through the doorway, I saw her. She was standing at the foot of my bed. Her head was slightly bowed, her lips moving quickly. But the words, they weren't English, they weren't Twi. They weren't any language I recognized. It sounded like a low chant, almost like humming, but with sharp syllables cutting through. For a moment, I just froze. My mouth went dry. I wanted to speak, but my voice felt trapped somewhere deep in my throat. When she finally noticed my eyes were open, she stopped instantly, straightened up and smiled. "Ah, you are awake. Don't worry, I was praying for you." Praying in my room at 2 a.m. without telling me. She brushed it off like it was nothing, tugged the covers tighter around me and said, "Go back to sleep. You will feel stronger in the morning." But I didn't feel stronger. In fact, every day after that, I felt worse. My headaches were constant. I could barely walk without feeling lightheaded. Even my appetite disappeared, except when she was there, insisting I drink her herbal medicine and eat the meals she brought. Lying in that bed, I started thinking about the timeline. Before I started coming to her house often, I was fine. The tiredness, the headaches, the weird scratch on my leg, the bitter taste in my food, all of it had started after I got close to her. And now, here I was, trapped in her house, phone gone, body weakening, no one knowing exactly where I was. I started to wonder if the gate man's warnings had been more serious than I thought. By the 5th day, I had made up my mind I couldn't stay in that house any longer. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. My skin looked dull. My lips were pale, and even standing for too long made me dizzy. Something inside me kept screaming that if I didn't leave soon, I might never leave at all. That morning, I waited until I heard her go into the kitchen. I dragged myself out of bed, grabbed my small bag, and went to open the bedroom door. It didn't move. I turned the handle harder, still nothing. I pushed my shoulder against it. The door didn't budge. That is when I realized it wasn't stuck. It was locked from the outside. My heart started pounding. My first thought was that it was a mistake. Maybe the handle jammed. I knocked lightly at first, then louder. No answer. I started calling out, "Sister Amma, hello, please open the door." Still nothing. Panic began creeping up my chest. That is when I remembered her husband was in the house too. I called his name loudly, banging on the door. Finally, footsteps approached. The door opened slightly, and it was him. Relief flooded me. I told him everything in a rush. How I didn't feel well. How I thought something was wrong. How I woke up to his wife in my room chanting. And how I just needed to go back to my hostel. He listened without interrupting. And then he started laughing. Not the kind of laugh you give when something is funny. It was slow, mocking, like he was laughing at me, not with me. "You woman," he said, shaking his head, always jumping to conclusions. "My wife is trying to help you, and you are here saying she's harming you. You don't even know how lucky you are." That is when it hit me. This wasn't something his wife was doing behind his back. He knew. He knew everything. And worse, he was fine with it. After that conversation with him, I knew there was no one in that house who would help me. If I wanted to get out, I would have to do it myself. but I was weak. So weak that even standing for more than a few minutes made my head spin. Still, I decided to pretend like everything was fine. I smiled when they spoke to me, drank the green concoction she brought, and even thanked them for taking care of me. That night after dinner, they both settled in the living room to watch TV. I sat with them at first, trying to hide my nerves, then told them I was going to rest in the bedroom. From inside, I listened. The sound of the TV was loud, and every now and then, I would hear them laughing at whatever they were watching. I waited. Minutes turned into hours. At some point, the laughter stopped. The TV kept playing, but there was no one talking. I peeked out quietly. Both of them were slammed on the couch, fast asleep. That is when I saw it, my phone. It was on a small table near the couch, right where I couldn't reach it before. I tiptoed over, grabbed it, and rushed back to the bedroom. My heart sank when I pressed the power button. Battery dead, completely dead. No time to cry over it. I had to leave. I crept to the front door and tried the handle, locked. I tried the back door, also locked. My legs were too weak to stand long, so I dropped to my knees and began crawling toward the gate at the far end of the compound. Every step felt like dragging a bag of cement. Finally, I reached the small gatehouse. I knocked softly at first, then harder, whispering, "Please open the gate, please." The gateman stepped out, his face shadowed. For a long moment, he just stared at me, and I couldn't read his expression. "Madam, go back inside," he whispered. "You don't know what you are doing." I grabbed his arm, tears in my eyes. "Please, I'm begging you, just open it. I can't stay here." He looked back at the house, then back at me. My heart was racing. I didn't know if he was about to help me or shout to wake them up. For a moment, he just stood there, his hand on the padlock, his eyes moving from me to the house. I could see the muscles in his jaw tighten, like he was holding something back. Then suddenly his voice rose, not loud enough to shout, but sharp enough to make my chest tighten. "You think you are the first?" I froze. He shook his head slowly. "Instead of working hard, you choose greed. You see small money and you forget your senses. You don't even know what they do to the girls here." His words stung, but there was no time to defend myself. I didn't care what he thought of me. I just needed to get out. "Please," I begged, my voice breaking. "Whatever you think of me, fine. But if you don't open this gate, I am going to die here. Please, help me." He glanced at the house again, his eyes narrowing like he was weighing the risk. I followed his gaze. The lights in the living room were still on, the faint sound of the TV drifting out, but there was no movement. They were still asleep. Finally, he sighed heavily and muttered something under his breath. With trembling hands, he slid the padlock open. As the gate swung open, he leaned closer and whispered urgently, "Run, and don't ever come back here. Forget everything you saw for your own good." I didn't need to be told twice. Barefoot, weak and shaking, I stepped out into the dark street. The cold night air hit my face, but all I could think about was putting as much distance between myself and that house as possible. I didn't even look back. I just staggered into the road, the rough stones cutting into my bare feet. My vision was blurry, but I kept moving. A few cars passed without stopping. Maybe I looked too ragged. Maybe they thought I was drunk. Finally, an old taxi slowed down. The driver rolled down the window and looked at me suspiciously. "Please take me to the campus," I begged, my voice trembling. He hesitated for a moment, then unlocked the door. I climbed in, curling my feet under me so the blood from the small cut wouldn't stain his seats. The ride felt like forever, every bump on the road sending pain up my legs. When we finally pulled up near my hostel, I realized my phone was still dead. My bag was still at their house. I didn't care. I just wanted to be somewhere they couldn't reach me. The first thing I did when I got inside was lock my door. Then I lay on my bed and cried, not just from fear, but from the shock of how quickly everything had changed. Just weeks ago, I thought I was living a good life. Now, I didn't even know what had almost happened to me. The next day, I borrowed a charger, powered my phone, and immediately blocked both of them. I didn't explain to anyone where I had been. I just wanted it all to disappear. Weeks passed. I started to feel better physically, but mentally, I was still on edge. Every time I walked alone at night, I kept checking over my shoulder. Then one afternoon, as I was walking to buy food, I heard my name. I turned, and there he was, the husband. He smiled like we were old friends. Why did you run like that? We were only trying to treat you. You know I love you. I felt my stomach turn. I didn't reply. I just walked away. Until today, I still don't know what they were planning for me. I have never told anyone this story because I was too ashamed. But sometimes, I ask myself if I overreacted. He texted me again a few days ago, asking to meet up, but I am still scared. Do you think they were really trying to help me, or were they trying to harm me? Babe, what are you talking about? Why should you even ask this question? You know what? Let me leave this question for you guys. Let me hear your thoughts down below. Were they trying to help her, or were they trying to harm her? Let me hear what you think. And you know that this is a judgment-free zone. We listen, we don't judge. So please be kind to her in the comment section. And if you've not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for, babe? What are you waiting for? Subscribe and like this video. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that when I post, you'll be notified immediately. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Okay, I'm done. Bye.